Hello, everyone, and welcome to my final entry into the Draft Countdown Mock Draft Simulator Series. And we're wrapping up with the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati Bengals finished the season 9-8 and barely missed the playoffs. And this was despite Joe Burrow missing like the final 6 or 7 games. Jake Browning almost willed the Bengals to the playoffs by playing way above his skis. But the Bengals still have some holes to fill. Interior defensive line is a big spot they could be looking at as they come into the draft, losing DJ Reader in free agency. And he's also was coming off an injury as well. They did sign Sheldon Rankins, but they still don't really have that nose tackle guy. They think they'll look at that. Right tackle, probably a position that they could look at too. They did sign Trent Brown, but he's only signed to a 1-year deal, so maybe they look to the future there at right tackle. Wide receiver, Tyler Boyd still unsigned, so the slot position kind of open right now. What are they going to do with T. Higgins? I think he's going to play this year on the franchise tag, but a lot of people think he could be traded, so wide receiver could end up being a bigger need than what it is right now. And I always feel like they need a tight end. They signed Mike Gesicki as a free agent, also on like a 1-year deal. So they seem to like these 1-year rental tight ends. We'll see if they address that. Depth is an issue at other spots, maybe at running back, interior offensive line, linebacker position could be addressed later in the draft. So corner is another spot. Sneaky could be even a first-round pick. So we'll see how it goes. But the Bengals, not a whole lot of starting level holes, but depth is an issue up and down the spot. So let's see how it goes. The clock, pick 18 of the first round. We're going to look and see how the board fell here. And we talked about the interior defensive line maybe being the biggest need. And lo and behold, looky there, the top 2 defensive tackles are on the board. Byron Murphy, more of a pass rusher type guy. So is Jerzon Newton. None of these are your pure nose tackles, if you will. So maybe the Bengals like these 2 guys. They haven't had that interior disruptor. BJ Hill's been solid, but they could definitely use that. And I love Johnny Newton from Illinois. We'll come back to that. I mentioned corner, Cooper DeJean, Kool-Aid McKinstry on the board. Are these guys worthy of the 18th pick? And do they fit what the Bengals looking for in a corner? Maybe so. Offensive tackle, Amarius Mims sitting there on the board. A right tackle position, only 8 career starts, but could be somebody the Bengals maybe draft, sit for this year, and pursue as a starter down the road. Troy Fautanu, I think, could be a plug and play at left guard for the Bengals and replace Cordell Volson, who I think has been the weak link in the chain on that interior offensive line the last couple of seasons. Maybe he's a left tackle at Washington. Do they want to make him transition to right tackle? I don't know, but I think if the Bengals draft Fautanu, it would be as a guard. Look who's there. Tight end 1. I mentioned the Bengals need a tight end. Brock Bowers will be the replacement for Tyler Boyd in the slot, essentially, plus give them something at tight end they have not had since Joe Burrow's been a Cincinnati Bengals quarterback. We did a live staff mock the other night at Draft Countdown. I passed on Brock Bowers, who was on the board at 18, and took Johnny Newton. I'm going to flip that around here. I think if Brock Bowers is on the board, there's a good chance the Bengals take him, and I'm going to take him here at pick 18. I'm going to take Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia, as the Bengals pick at 18. All right, we're back on the board now at pick 49 in the second round. So here's where I think maybe they look to that second level of offensive tackle, maybe an interior offensive lineman if there is a plug and play starter at left guard that they think they can get their hands on. I think it's a little too early for them to start looking at running back depth. Is there a wide receiver that is just standing there that you have to have? Or the interior defensive line, is this where they tackle that as well? Maybe corner. We're going to look at all that again. Let's just look at wide receiver here. Roman Wilson, Jalen Polk, Devontae Walker, Jermaine Burton. These are all guys I don't necessarily think that the Bengals would target at pick 49. So look at the interior offensive line. Zach Frazier, center at West Virginia, but could easily play left guard. He's definitely one I think they would consider here if that's where they end up going. Interior defensive line, I would have probably said Tavondre Sweat would be the pick here before his DWI last week. The Bengals seem to be the Bengals 10 years ago, they probably ignored that and draft Tavondre Sweat. I don't think the Bengals front office and coaching staff now likes to rock the boat too much with those guys. So I'm going to pass on Sweat. I do think Chris Jenkins is a high upside player that they would look to. Mason Smith is another guy that they could look to here, but we'll come back to that. Corner, Mike Sanders still. is a nickel, I think, early on. I don't think that's something they would attach here. And just looking at edge, they drafted Miles Murphy last year. I'm always saying, hey, you can upgrade that position, but maybe not here. So let's go back to the interior defensive line. Let's look at the offensive tackles. I'm sorry. And here's a couple of guys. Jordan Morgan sitting here, man, could be your right tackle of the future going forward. I like Jordan Morgan, and if he's on the board at pick 49, he had a great week at the Senior Bowl, man. I think he's a guy that could be in that spot for them to take at right tackle. Or Dane Brugler, I know, has him as a potential guard. Maybe not. So we'll see. But I think Jordan Morgan, I think that's the pick we're going to go with here at pick 49, the offensive tackle from Arizona, and maybe the replacement for Trent Brown after next season. We're back on the board at pick 80. The Bengals have 2 third-round picks coming up here because they got a comp pick in the 3rd round. So we've already drafted tight end Brock Bowers, we drafted Jordan Morgan. So now we've got to really address that interior defensive line. But man, it dried up quick. Maybe I made a mistake here not taking Mason Smith there in the 3rd round or in the 2nd round or Chris Jenkins. So now we're going to look at corner, see what's available there. Man, I do like Chris Abrams-Drain. I think he's a tremendous guy. Could be a slot, could play outside, very high volume guy there. Edge rusher Braylon Trice still on the board. Brandon Dorless, I think, is a someone kind of like they already have on the roster with Cam Sample, kind of that inside-out guy, outside on rundowns, inside on pass downs. I think that's going to be the big fit for Brandon Dorless. So look at the wide receiver position, and we see Jalen Polk still on the board. So both the Washington guys. Javon Baker is another one. I would target him coming back maybe with that 97th pick if he's still around. On their interior offensive line, Dominic Pooney, Cedric Von Prawn. Those are both guys I think they give you a lot of versatility there at that position. So giving the status of the board here, I think I'm left here. I'm going to end up going with the corner that I think has outside, inside versatility and gives the Bengals good depth. I'm going to go with Chris Abrams-Drain from Missouri at pick 80. All right, we're back on the board, pick 97. Again, this is the comp pick they received. We're going to quickly look at the interior offensive line. I see Von Prawn. I see Christian Mahogany. Mahogany actually is very intriguing as a potential replacement for Cordell Volson. I don't know, maybe the Bengals seem to like Volson, so maybe they're not actively looking for his replacement. I mentioned Javon Baker earlier. I like Jalen McMillan, but I don't know that he's on the board here. Maybe he is, but I do like Javon Baker as well. Interior defensive line, same guys there. Mekhi Wingo, Dwayne Carter. Wouldn't be bad gambles here at that spot. And we just took a corner. Safety is interesting because I don't know if it's something that they're overtly interested in. They drafted Jordan Battle last year. They've got Dax Hill on the roster, who I think might actually end up being more maybe transition that slot corner role. Well, they brought Von Bell back. They signed Geno Stone as their free safety. So I don't know if safety is going to be something they're going to address high here. But wide receiver is something I think they are going to look at. Malik Washington's another guy that I think they could be very interested in, maybe even Brendan Rice from Southern Cal. Let's look at running backs here, and this is intriguing to me because there's 3 guys here that I think could give the Bengals something that they don't necessarily have. Jalen Wright, home run hitter speed. Braylon Allen could be that grinder running back that they're looking at. They did sign Zach Moss as a free agent. They've got Chase Brown. So with that said, I'm going to pass on running back here, although I really like the idea of Marshawn Lloyd coming along. So I think receivers where it's at here, and I know they've got interest in him. So we're going to take a look here at Javon Baker, the wide receiver from UCF at pick 97. Back on the board in the 4th round, pick 115, and we waited too long on defensive line. I think we probably should have hit this earlier. So I'm going to go with a little, give us a little interior pass rush here, maybe help. And that's where I think I give the edge to Dwayne Carter over Mekhi Wingo in that regard. McKinley Jackson, if we're going to go with the nose, could be the spot for him here at pick 115 if they think he can play that nose position for them. So that's that's probably where we need to go. We probably need to go with the nose tackle more here. So let's go with McKinley Jackson, the interior defensive line of Texas A&M. Back on the board, pick 149 in the 5th round, and I'm looking at the board here, and those 2 pass rushing upside defensive tackles still on the board. And that is a position I think the Bengals need depth at. And I'm going to double dip on the interior defensive line here, and I'm going to come back with Dwayne Carter from Duke to give us some inside pass rush rotation help here in the 5th round. Bengals have 2 picks in the 6th round. They're on a comp pick So now we're going to start hitting some depth spots here where that we haven't addressed before. I'm going to go right to the interior offensive line because I really thought that Satoa Laumea from Utah stood out at the Senior Bowl. And he can play tackle, he can play guard. I think, maybe even center if need be. I think he's a guy who can give you that versatility as a backup all along the offensive line. And it's just, you can't go wrong with guys like that, especially at 6th round picks. So give me Laumea back on the board, 6th round pick 214 in the compensatory section here. Now, like I said, we're in that depth portion of the draft. You're drafting guys who probably aren't going to be starters or really make an impact. Or can they make an impact as a rookie on special teams? That is very beneficial at this point. You may hear people start talking about maybe the Bengals draft a punter again to replace Brad Robbins. I don't know. Torrey Taylor, I'm just assuming, yes, is available. He's the only punter with a draftable grade, in my opinion. But I'm also of the opinion, don't draft kickers, punters, and long snappers, no matter how good Evan McPherson's worked out. Just not something I like. Let's flip over to safety. Looking at the depth guys here, just not a whole lot happening at that position. Edge offers us some hope and upside still available here, and I think that's kind of where the Bengals might look. Maybe even double dip at that position late in the draft just to try to hit a home run. Is there another offensive tackle worth drafting? Doesn't look so. Double up on tight ends. I'm not opposed to that, to be honest. You brought back Drew Sample, Tanner Hudson. You're probably going to bring back Usain Gesicki. Maybe they bring one of these guys in as a UDFA and go from there. They're not going to draft a quarterback. Could they double up on wide receiver? Maybe. Linebacker is definitely a spot I could see them hitting here. A guy I think they're going to like. He's an older prospect, Tyrese Knight is, so we're going to pass on him. But Tyron Hopper from Mizzou, high production guy in the SEC. Definitely could see him being a guy the Bengals target this late in the draft. But I think, like I said, let's try to hit a home run on the edge here late with some rotation here. Brennan Jackson, high production Washington State guy I've been a fan of for many years now. So I'm going to go with Brennan Jackson from Wazoo, the edge rusher at pick 214. All right, we got 2 picks here in the 7th round. Pick 224, I believe, came over from the Houston Texans in exchange for Joe Mixon. And 237 is their own pick. So let's look over at running back and just to kind of be ironic here a little bit. If you take a running back with the Joe Mixon pick, I just think would be funny. And there's some guys available here, and one's intriguing because he tore his biceps at the Senior Bowl after having one of the best running back practices I've ever seen there, and that's Rasheen Ali. But we're going to pass on him here. Looking at edge, like I said, if they want to double dip here, I'm intrigued by Braden McGregor from Michigan as a guy, another just lottery ticket type pick. That's who I'm going to go with. We're going to double up at the edge position here and just get Braden McGregor. All right, we're going to finish up here with our last pick in the 7th round, pick 237. Last year's 7th round pick, DJ Ivey, had a small impact as a reserve corner. So the Bengals can find players that make small impacts here this late in the draft. So you have to hope there. Like I said, I believe this pick will be down to safety, linebacker, or running back. I'm intrigued by Jordan McGee, the linebacker, because I think he would be a good impact on special teams. Safety position, I'm just not enamored with any of these guys here that are available this late in the draft. I think these are all guys the Bengals could bring in as UDFAs. Running back is a bit different. Isaiah Davis, South Dakota State, still on the board. I'm a little surprised by that, but maybe not. I mean, running backs kind of get pushed down. Jawar Jordan from Louisville is another guy that's intriguing to me. Could they double dip at corner? Carlton Johnson there from Fresno State. Really fast, kind of intriguing there. But I think we're going to go with the running back here. And if Isaiah Davis, South Dakota State, is on the board here, I think he could be a guy the Bengals like at pick 237. So that's who we're going to go with and wrap up this draft class with Isaiah Davis, the running back, South Dakota State. All right, Bengals fans, that's going to do it. 10 picks in the books. We get Brock Bowers, tight end from Georgia, Jordan Morgan, Arizona, offensive tackle, Chris Abrams-Drain, corner from Missouri, Javon Baker, wide receiver, UCF. We double up at defensive tackle, McKinley Jackson from A&M, Dwayne Carter from Duke. We get some reserve help on the offensive defensive lines with Satea Oa, Lau Umea from Utah, Brennan Jackson from Wazoo, Braden McGregor from Michigan, and we finish up with Isaiah Davis, the running back from South Dakota State. Tell us how, Bengals fans and anybody else, tell us how we did in the comments below. Like the video, share it out.